Speaking of Catcher in the Rye, just as an off note, did you understand that book at all? Why it was written? Because like I
I
got to the last page of that book and was like, I have no idea why I read that
When did you read it?
last year
For the first time?
for the first time.
Really? That's interesting. I tried reading it in middle school, definitely didn't understand it, definitely was too young to understand what he was going through. And then in high school, I read it when I was like around the same age as the character. So that I think had a lot to do with it. Um, and I think that has a lot to do with what someone takes out of it. Is like if I were to like read Catcher in the Rye now, I would probably be like, man, this kid's got a lot to learn. But then there's
Right.
that other phase where you're like, wow, this kid is like really onto something. Everybody is a phony and all that stuff. I think the end is supposed to show that he's about to start growing up. I don't think he's
Right.
growing up throughout the whole book, but at the very end of the book, when he sees her go for the ring and he realizes, oh, it's okay if they fall down. It's not so bad. I don't have to bear the weight of the world on my shoulders. Um, you know, that's like that first glimmer. Now, normally that would happen like a few times in a book where they have little epiphanies. I don't think Holden has any epiphanies until the end.
You
And
know, I mean,
even
it's
then, he's kind of still a whiny kid, you
well, it
know.
only takes place over the course of like one day, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
Yeah, about a
I
day
think
or
it's.
two.
I guess the only thing I could draw from it was like this is that pivotal day in a young man's life in which he finally realized it was all right. It's
Hmm.
all right to just move the hell on. Who cares if the world's a phony?
Yeah, yeah. I think he actually still has more growing up to do. That's why I don't like a lot of times in movies the characters have these realizations at the very end, and it gives this idea that like, oh, I just need to have some crazy moment and my whole life will just kind of be placed in order. And it's like, no, the adventure begins after you have the epiphany, after you start trying to integrate it into your life. That's the interesting stuff. It's a lot of like recovery literature and recovery films. They start when they end when the character gets sober. And it's like, why do they end there? That's when it gets interesting. Everything that happens before is pretty boring, honestly.
Yeah.
Self-destruction is really not that interesting to me anymore.